Greetings to all our No Art, No Life viewers. Good afternoon, David.
Jack, I was told by you and thousands of others that we have really gone viral, so to speak, at least at our show.
By our reckoning of numbers, yes, we had a bit of a climb last week.
We had to climb up, and I tell you, please tell everyone, No Art, No Life with David Duvall and with Jack Cole. And we're talking about the arts, about life, about anything. I don't care if it's, if we come up with a political moment, although we should all be very sick of those. That's all you hear now. And of course, the word scandal now has almost a new definition in our time. I mean, everyone is murdering everyone, in the family, so to speak. So I'm waiting for a certain family to start murdering each other, especially after the receipts of the documentary on a woman of Slovenian immigration. I think you know who she is.
I don't, because I must say I am in profound ignorance of the headlines.
It is extraordinary. The only man that hasn't read the reviews of this incredible documentary that cost her $40 million or something like that. Very attractive woman, of course, and the husband certainly doesn't deserve this silent, enigmatic woman who must indeed be complicit with the guy in trying to destroy everything.
All right.
Well, that's, I think, the best political commentary that you're going to be hearing on what are we called, Substack and YouTube.
Yes, that's right.
Etc., 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 as the great Yul Brynner would say.
Yes, he did say that often when he was the king of Siam, did he not?
Yes, and he had he had something wonderful because
and that's a song from the show, Something Wonderful.
Yes, isn't that something?
Yes, that your brain made that. Yes.
My brain, I live in the unconscious.
Yes.
I love the dreams and I love to talk about them. But yes, Yul Brynner, I would have loved to have known him. He smoked himself to death. I think he was only not even 50 years old, but he's the guy that began this, damn fashion of meatheads all over the place with no hair.
Is it called meatheads or is it called skinhead?
Skinheads, it was called in Britain because that's where it began, I think. And then Yul Brynner was the only movie star that did it, but he was so gorgeous, so sculpted, so he had a face that rivaled Nureyev, and the Slavic bones, the Tartar look, not tartar sauce. Boy, am I brilliant today, huh?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, I hope that all of you listened and appreciate the extraordinary wit that we are able to compound for you.
True.
Please subscribe. Please tell us what you're thinking. Please tell us that you think we're out of our mind. Anything you would like.
Speaking of Yul Brynner, I don't think we were discussing my love for the cinematic Western. And a movie that's very famous, The Magnificent Seven.
Oh, he's great in that, isn't he?
And it's a movie for which I don't have very much use for outside of its prologue. But I think its prologue is absolutely exquisite. That ride in the wagon with Steve McQueen to Boot Hill, and talk about a wonderful depiction of Western ethos and bravado. Yes, Yul Brynner fits right in.
He takes the cowboy hat off, and there's the no hair though.
Yes,
that's fantastic guy. He
yes,
must have when he thought of that, he knew that he was going to be a star. I think
Yes, what a movie! And then I saw one of the final productions of The King and I when he was near death here on Broadway.
Well, how old was he? About 40?
I don't know when he passed exactly what his age would have been, but he didn't do all the numbers. I was, as the audience was, somewhat disappointed. They had other people delegated to some of the King's numbers in the show because I guess his health was so poor at that time. I think it was 1984 that I saw that.
I love the fact that in it, the nobody could be taller than the King. He was always barefoot, and Deborah Carr was always a little bit taller than him. And he chided her for no one must be taller than the king, and I really do believe that. I
You-
believe that.
For the sake of sovereigns, do you mean that no one can be taller than the king?
Yes, I mean I don't.
Yes.
I'm not tall at all, but I'm not 5'1", but I can't stand these tall Americans. I don't want to look up and see someone 6'10" all the time.
How do you abide the myth of the Texan then?
What's the myth of the Texan?
I just mean that we all know the archetype of the tall man out of the West.
Yeah, I don't like to see. Remember we said that I always look at the height of the people?
Yes, in movies and
Yeah.
determine their height.
Yeah. I was struck how small Wood, what's her name? Natalie Wood is.
Natalie Wood,
Because Steve McQueen is only about 5'9", and I just saw a movie on Turner Classic called Love with the Proper Stranger with McQueen, who died at 49. What a shame! What a shame! I hate when these people die, too early. They had all of their prime still, because I believe that 50s, 60s, and 70s, as Virgil Thompson used to say, no artist is at its best except from 40 to 65.
I remember that generalization from him. Yes, I do.
I know that in my own work, I cannot even conceive of my creativity going downhill. It seems to always be edging a little higher. And I know that is for you too. Cyril Connolly, by the way, this is a wonderful book called Enemies of Promise. And I think the title is All of the Enemies That Can Get to You with you if you have a talent.
You mean the idea if one puts or sticks their head above the parapet, people will take a shot at it?
Oh,
Is that what you
yes,
mean?
yes, yeah.
Okay.
The society, the whole, everyone, individuals, even your friends, certainly your parents often, without knowing it, often they will, hurt you forever. It all goes into your bones. The more sensitive you are. I don't mean hypersensitive or, hypochondriacal or any of that stuff. I'm talking about what the society can do to a talent. In America, there are so many talents. Yesterday, I got a book by a man by the name of Walker, a play on Schubert's, because he was a fan of my show, and listened in Eugene, Oregon, where it's a great classical station, and they have my show. And Mr. Walker wrote a play called Death and Genius, and it's about the last 6 years of Schubert's life. It's an extraordinary play. I mean, did he ever get it produced?
I was just
No,
about to
I'm
ask
sure he didn't. I mean, is the guy well? I don't know anything about him. I mean, my producer, because I did 3 radio shows yesterday with her for WWFM. The thing is called, as you may know, The Piano Matters. And I get this, and she hadn't seen me for 3 months, so she brings it, and later I open it and I see, my goodness, it's a most scholarly work about the friends of fiction, but in play form, an iambic pentameter. What is it called?
Pentameter.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm reading it, and you can see this is a true poet. He's living out there in Eugene, Oregon. Has he ever had any success in his playwriting or anything else? I don't know a thing about him.
And his name again is?
I don't remember the first name, the second. I have the book right there, but it's Walker is the last name, and it's a small book, and it's a play with the people in Schubert's life. Everything is exactly authentic.
And he sent you the play in a typescript manuscript?
In a self-published book. Very,
so
very
a book
nice
that
book, yeah.
Can be purchased.
I'm sure of it.
Okay.
Maybe we'll talk about it again.
Okay.
But any Schubert fan should read him, and he must be an unusual person, because he, people that love stamps send their envelopes with lots of crazy, wonderful American
It's
stamps.
remarkable that you say that. I too can't bear to merely buy a coil of the generic stamps. I feel like I'm one of the last who always buys the special issue stamps with the design of using them, not saving them. So what do you make of that? Because I have that tendency.
I'll show it to you.
Okay.
And there's one. There's about 6, 7, 8, 9 of them.
Yes.
And they're delightful in every way.
Okay. All right.
One is the Voice of America, but I don't even know there is the Voice of America anymore.
What would be the reference to that? Would be
just the stamp was for the Voice of America.
And again, that phrase references what exactly?
Well, to me, there's no Voice of America anymore, and there's truly no voice in American.
But what does the image conjure when it's saying?
I don't remember the stamp right now. Only glanced at it and I saw I must look at these more closely. But I did read some of the play, and I hope that I don't know that Mr. Walker knows anything about our show. Mm-hmm. Can we call it that? Yes.
Of course.
And the play is good. It's good, but you could see. I don't know anything about rhyming or iambic, but you could see that this is a real poet. What is happened to him? Did he ever have any success? Let's say.
And so he corresponded with you and asked to send it.
No, he just sent it. To the studios of
studio.
WWFM.
I understand how it got
and
to
I
you.
got it maybe 3 months later.
I see.
Yesterday.
So what does the cast call for? How big of a cast does he require?
Oh, Beethoven is in there, but he says in a preface that it's apocryphal. But actually, it's not totally apocryphal, for Schubert did, visit Beethoven's deathbed, where he got a compliment on his songs and had told Czerny, have him bring his piano sonatas and operas. But and he was a torchbearer, and all of them are in there. All of his friends, Spahn and Mayrhofer, and you name it, and it's all authentic. I know a good deal about Schubert's life, and this is a compression of the last 6 years.
Now, David, you said that Czerny asked Schubert to bring also some of his sonatas and operas.
Yeah.
Do we have any evidence of Beethoven's reactions to any of Schubert's piano sonatas?
No. We don't.
All right.
No.
Okay.
And who knows if it's what's come down to us does not mean, and he calls it apocryphal, but does use the moment where Schubert does see Beethoven and is the torchbearer. But he's at a cafe, and there's there's an intimacy, and I have to read it more carefully because I just scanned it. I just got it yesterday.
Does it bring it through to the last days of Schubert?
Yes.
I was always touched
I believe that, yes.
To learn that amongst Schubert's readings near death, that he requested copies of James Fenimore Cooper novels.
Yes, he did, yes. I don't think that's in there.
Yes.
But everyone was wild about because they already knew about the Wild West.
The Wild West, which was
what the West wasn't wild.
At that point, it was, I guess, what they would call the old Northwest territories at that time, like Ohio.
Have you ever read any of Fenimore Cooper's books?
I'm ashamed to say no.
Never be ashamed. How could you read everything? I mean, you have to let yourself off the hook.
Thank you.
I mean, how many books can you possibly read? You have to practice, you have to live, you have to have, water.
Yes.
You have to get me a wonderful pie every week. You have to...
Well, that task doesn't excuse me from reading James Fenimore Cooper.
I've read one book. Fantastic writer. That's what's amazing.
Which one was it?
The Last of the Mohegans.
Okay.
Yeah. But Schubert was captivated, as a lot of Europeans were, of James Fenimore Cooper, because isn't Virgin America the most exciting possible thing then in 1820 in a more rarefied society, to say the least, in Vienna?
I can only imagine. Yes.
My God. The piano for Bösendorfer opened in 1828, the year Schubert died.
Oh.
So there were no Bösendorfers before, and Schubert, talking about the piano sonatas, he played and composed probably on his favorite piano, Beethoven's also at the end, the Graf piano.
David, you mentioned the Bösendorfer. Do you personally have experience of playing on a modern one? I've never touched one.
I think I did once, yes,
Okay.
and I remember it didn't impress me.
Okay.
I do know that at a competition once, I knew that for sure the fellow played the wrong instrument for the Tchaikovsky concerto, which he was playing, and it was on a Bösendorfer, and the instrument was too thin voiced for the slugging that you needed with the Steinway bass, and I think he lost the competition because of the Bösendorfer.
And it's von Bülow who premieres it at Carnegie Hall, am I right? Is it von Bülow who first plays the Tchaikovsky concerto? The first?
Yeah, isn't that amazing? He in Boston with the...
Was it Boston?
Yes.
Okay. And would we imagine on what piano then would he have done the slugging?
Chickering.
A Chickering.
Chickering brought him here
All right.
in 1876 as Steinway brought Rubinstein in 1872. Chickering was a great piano, Gottschalk's favorite, and he had two Chickerings that were, listen to this, 10 feet long.
Wow.
He called them my mastodons. And they went with him on the trains everywhere he went.
Wow. Wonder if they have survived.
I don't know. I don't know. Probably not.
Okay.
Do you know that the Chickering Piano Factory was the largest building outside the Capitol in America during that era in the Civil War years?
I believe it. Now, in thinking of pianos...
19th century America is so interesting. People don't know that.
Well, it certainly is, yes. So, David, am I right that Joseph Hoffman also had a personalized piano with narrower keys? Is that true?
Oh, definitely, of his own invention.
Of his own invention.
Yeah, exactly.
And that would simply permit him, because of his spans limitation, to
take... I don't think it helped him that much, because I think that he had an inherent and worked out virtuosity that was unique in the history of the nervous system, any human nervous system. But, he had very small, very athletic hands, played tennis a lot.
Yes.
And I guess that he wanted to see if it would be more comfortable. Now, and indeed it could have been, but he was already past his great prime when that was built by Steinway for him.
Now, David, I had an experience in terms of the width of keys, in which, when I was coming to know you, I had cause to speak to your friend Robert Preston, who had a great deal of experience with harpsichords.
I didn't know that. Yes, funny. I knew him so well, but we never talked about harpsichords. Yeah.
Somehow it came up because I had told him that I had accepted a small job to play with a small orchestra, one of the Brandenburg concertos, and I said, "Well, I'll take it on. How much different can it be?" And of course, I prepared the work on the piano, went to my college to test it, and was terrified when I tried the harpsichord because of the size of the keys. I felt like a monster, and was grazing all of these adjacent notes. So do we know why, in the history of keyboard instruments, if Hoffman felt the desire to shrink the size slightly back, why was there a greater breadth added to the key width at one time, moving away from the harpsichord to the key size that we encounter, I would imagine, from the 19th century on? Is there any underlying reason that we might know about that?
I feel that probably every keyboard from the hundreds of different companies were actually different.
Different, okay.
You can find many Steinways of the 30s and the 20s that are different key lengths right now, or breadth, than another Steinway, or a Hamburg Steinway, which is different. It could be very minuscule, but you get used to it quickly if you play. It's not going to be very dramatic, but it's in some cases really quite traumatic if you have a Steinway that is very narrow keys, and they were made.
So when I spoke to your friend Robert Preston, and he said, "Well, how did you prepare?" I said, "Well, I did it in the only way I could. I went to the piano and I felt very secure." And then he took a pause and he said, "That's the worst thing you could have done." Was to prepare it on the piano, because I just shook through the whole thing with terror, because I just felt it was a whole other world. And I found myself defaulting to childhood things that I hadn't felt in terms of performance anxiety panic since I was small, meaning getting tense, moving in certain ways and so in a way it was gratifying because it was like a time machine of all sorts of things I had conquered as a pianist, and I reverted to them under stress when I was presented again with a keyboard that seemed intimidating to me. It was altogether the same and yet altogether foreign, the harpsichord. So what an instrument we descend from.
Yes, it's a very beautiful, very princely instrument. I love the harpsichord, and I love the harpsichord timbre very much. But in fact, it is more unique in a certain way to me than in Bach, at least, when we play it, than the modern piano. We call it modern piano, but we're talking about the Steinway and the great firms of Mason Hamlin and others at mid-century of the 19th century, where the piano starts finally becoming. There's nothing really changed now in the last 100 years, but you can't imagine 6'5" Rachmaninoff playing on a harpsichord.
No, that's a great image to put.
And also, you cannot. Here's your greatest distinction. It is so different an instrument than the piano. The piano, an instrument of percussion, really, and the harpsichord is a plucked instrument, and it can't be any more different. And the piano itself can accompany all of the great song literature of the Romantics so beautifully. But can you imagine a Wolf or a Fauré song played on the harpsichord with the singer? No. There's your greatest difference.
Yes, because we spoke a lot last week about Cristofori transcending the harpsichord, but we didn't speak about the harpsichord itself. So that was my one-time experience accepting work on it, and I frankly don't think I would do it again. It's so different.
It's so different. That's what a lot of people don't get.
Yes.
The sound is so princely, so silvery, and in fact, I mean, the big great Ruckert harpsichords of the earliest 20th century and 19th. I mean, they can really make a lot of powerfuls. To really, Horwood said, "Oh, they can scream at you, those harpsichords. They can really." But Horowitz, let's say, in his playing of Scarlatti, I think his blend of harpsichord sound, because he really had lessons in a sense with Kirkpatrick, the Scarlatti scholar, and knew those recordings and understood the timbre of the harpsichord very well, because I think he had one of the great ears for color and timbre, Horowitz. And before he made his Scarlatti recording, he had Kirkpatrick play for him and talk to him about it. And I think that he has a certain kind of blend of the piano sound and a harpsichord sound, much more the piano sound, of course, than anyone else. I find him the most interesting Scarlatti player. There are marvelous piano performances by Michelangelo or by Rahes or many, many pianists, but none with that smell of the harpsichord in there too.
Another thing about that one-time job for me, it exposed something that we as pianists are never, ever, almost without exception, obliged to do. And it put me in a sense of a slight bit of personal shame, because everywhere else that's hidden from other musicians, that the harpsichord is of a design that one, every time at every performance, has to be tuned. I couldn't tune it. I was afraid to touch it for fear I would break it. And yet the rental harpsichord had all the gear, and everyone to a degree felt the expectation that if I was able to take the job, I should also tune it. So I was also embarrassed that everyone was tuning down to this instrument that was losing its pitch over the course of the dress rehearsal. But as we know, do you know, and I'm sure you may know, of pianists now that are able to tune their own instruments? I can't.
I have no interest in any mechanical in the world. I mean, opening up a Coke bottle is almost impossible for me. And my hands will be bleeding if I try to, in those.
But do you think it's kind of an interesting psychological aspect of the
Every
pianist?
pianist should really know how to tune their piano. Why should it?
I feel that, but do you agree that pianists gain perhaps the highest degree of mastery over one of the most difficult literatures, but know the least about the mechanism?
Absolutely, yes. It's because the instrument is, I don't know, what can you say? It's really an imperfect instrument.
Imperfect?
Imperfect, surely.
In what respect?
Well, I mean, that mean tone tuning, is not possible, that you can hear on a violin, in
yes.
sa. I mean, this is a very great limitation of the well-tempered, tuning and so forth. I love to hear these subtleties.
Yes.
That's why I like the idea when we talked about Liszt like to play on altitude pianos. I like it too.
Yes.
And if you don't have perfect pitch, it's really a great experience. If you have perfect pitch, it'll drive you crazy.
I can imagine, yes.
Yeah. And perfect pitch, by the way, can't be. De La Rocha was once telling me that a perfect pitch went bad in her later years.
Oh, you mean that one lost it over time?
She lost it. Yes, Stanley, my friend Stanley Waldorf, who I have on my show on Wednesday on WWFM. It's at 3 o'clock, by the way, wwfm.org. Stanley, he said he's lost it, and everything bothers him terribly. Now he doesn't hear D major, he hears,
Oh, he just hears the abstraction of the diatonic. But now he's like a mortal like me,
yes,
who only knows he's in major but doesn't quite know which one.
Yeah,
okay.
yes. Yeah. I don't think that perfect pitch is a very good idea, actually, for the talent of a person. Wagner didn't have it. Probably Beethoven did not have it.
Then how do we think he audiated the pieces in his mind's ear after his deafness?
No, I don't know. I can only tell you that I believe that the musical talent is so various a thing that no one has ever heard perfectly.
Then, may I ask, not to challenge the assertion, that's the first I've heard of that, and you were the first person that I would take seriously hearing what you just said, that Beethoven may not have had it.
No, I don't think he did.
Okay, so does the literature suggest that?
Yes, it does. Mozart, of course, had it. All you have to do is hear the euphony of Mozartian work to know that, everything depended on diatonic, relationships that he understood as if it was his blood flow.
Yes.
Beethoven, even in his modulation, sometimes he's gonna, Schumann, I doubt he had perfect pitch at all.
Agreed.
Chopin did, without doubt. Liszt did, because he had the most comprehensive hearing. It was beyond perfect pitch. Joseph Hoffman said it best. Who wants perfect pitch? He said, I have the most perfect pitch that anyone has ever had. He said this. Think of it. But I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in spiritual hearing.
Beautiful phrase.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yes. I always loved that little book of his on piano playing, which I think was made up of successive serialized entries from the Ladies' Home Journal, and then they bound it. It's a great little book.
Well, far more important than that reprint, which is very, very fine, to have it all together. He was paid a great deal, by the way, by Ladies' Home Journal, which was, I guess the Bach family, BOK, who made the Curtis Institute and put him in as president. It's all who you know, remember.
Okay, yes.
And I know no one, which is, of course, good and bad. When someone doesn't answer me, I go mad. And nobody answers anyone anymore. But getting back to Hoffman, far more important that we understand what the piano was in America in that first decade of the 20th century when he wrote all of those weekly things. Because if you know, those questions were taken seriously by him, and he answered them so seriously. It was because everyone in America had a piano at home. A house was not a home without a piano. Romances would begin by their home dances together with, you could not touch a girl unless you danced. And here we are, the pianist at home was playing waltzes and, whatever else. And you could dance in the parlor. The piano had a great social
Yes.
impact on romance.
David, in one of your passages in one of your books, I think it's in The Art of the Piano, you have a really great phrase that has so much implication when you talk about the passing of the parlor piece also being contemporaneous, and I think this is a pretty close paraphrase of your sentence, that the boarding school piano is locked forever.
Ah, yes,
What
yes.
a what a redolent phrase, and I knew exactly what you meant by that. It's an age in which we will never recover that.
No.
People with limited, perhaps limited techniques, at the same time yearning through tactile contact to absorb the piece, and now no one makes that effort, and so that boarding school piano, the fall board, is now not only closed but locked with that brass key.
Locked in it are all those gorgeous melodies
Yes.
that many people played, and there are now old-fashioned pieces that we would never play Anton Rubinstein's this or that, or
Right.
the melody in F.
Yes.
And if you heard Tchaikovsky play it as an encore, you'd say, "Oh God, oh, it's no wonder Gershwin loved that."
Yes.
And if he became a composer, so to speak, from that. And
Right, isn't that the part of the lore that he was roller skating by in what, a Nickelodeon?
Yes,
and heard of that?
in Harlem,
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But the wannabe pianists were by the hundreds, not only the most wonderful schoolgirls with their pigtails, and they had to play the piano, and many of them said, "No, I can't stand this Czerny," but it's amazing how many thousands did continue to play and wanted to play and understood that it was something important, because this was the highest point in the growth of the piano in the history of the piano itself. From about 19, just as every composer would write marvelous stuff throughout the 19th century, I mean the opening of the 20th century, you had the peak of piano production by 1911 with, remember, it's not a mass produced artifact, it still had to have many hand things to it and many parts. 370,000 pianos were built in the year 1911, 1 year after my father came to America.
Wow.
And there were 360 different piano brands that same year, producing 370,000 pianos.
In the United States?
Yeah. Remember, Steinway itself does not produce more than 4 or 5 even now, 1,000 pianos. It's impossible. So here we have the phonograph in 3 or 4 years after that great moment, already outselling the piano by 500,000 a year. And the ads were this: why should you practice when you have a phonograph? You see, this
Did
is
they
very,
really advertise
yes,
with
oh
that
yeah.
phrase?
I
Okay.
can show you one of those ads.
Well, see, that's something that really should be addressed. There's the very first, perhaps sinister, enervating act that violates the notion that resistant material we must face in order to interpolate something. Wow, I'd never heard that before. Why should you practice when what you can put it on the phonograph?
Yeah. And they have the
Yes.
the whole thing, and it's all very well done. It was in every magazine, and I mean, you don't need that anymore. And boy, that was so true. You could take a look at any genre. Last week we were speaking of Cecile Lecoq doing all of these ragtimes
Yes.
by Joplin. Well, Joplin literally stops, not just because of the opera Tremonisha that he wants to write, a ragtime opera from 1911 to his death in 1917, but there's no ragtime pianists any longer. They're all died out, or there's no amateur pianists playing ragtime anymore because they really, literally were traumatized by the phonograph. Why should we work when we love music? Let's
Yes.
put it on.
Now, may I ask this? We know that Cecile Lecoq re-recorded recently her
Yes.
rag recording, because her first recording of it that she decided not to issue, she had made the decision to play it on a upright, correct? With the idea that the timbre might be more faithful. Do we imagine that Joplin also would have had the oral conception of his rags not rigidly in the equal temperament system. In other words, we all know that if we hear anything that suggests the brothel or the Old West Saloon, that probably if one was a director, we wouldn't have that piano tuned right before we shoot the scene.
Right.
Do you think, in choosing the upright, and then she rejected it, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that's part of it? I would love to hear what was the process by which she rejected it. You heard some of those, didn't you?
Yes, no, I heard all of those
Mm-hmm.
rags when she played it on the upright,
Yes.
and I was never too happy about that
Okay.
decision that she made, and I told her that. But finally, when she actually heard it, she saw that the modern piano
Mm.
was more conducive, probably to hearing more colors and playing it with more freedom than the upright. So she changed and got a Steinway in San Francisco that was so beautiful that she just really, really
Okay.
very thrilled with this. I think they'll
Mhm.
be out on Danacord on March or April. But yes, this ragtime almost stopped in its track. I mean,
Mhm.
from Maple Leaf Rag is only 1899 until there's only one rag that's Joplin writes in 1916, and there's almost none in the years before. They stopped like in 1911.
Mm.
And it's interesting that is the peak year of piano production in America, where everyone had to be playing
Okay, so
the
what? How
Maple
do you,
Leaf Rag.
so at the peak year of piano production, also coincidentally, you're saying that was also when the advertisement from the phonograph challenges it.
Many advertisements.
And you also, David, excel, and I think you've told me you've even kept in manuscript endless studies of things that are coincident through history, shared years and things that happen. Is there anything else? And you said it was 1911, and your father came in 1910.
Mm-hmm.
How about this year, 1911? Is there something else afoot that causes this notion of the apotheosis of piano production, and yet at the same time the very thing that's going to thwart it from almost continuing at all?
Well, remember, from 1914 on, the United States was preoccupied with the news of the war,
Yes.
and all cultural things had stopped from coming from Germany to America,
Mhm.
and people were tormented if they had German names. Just having the name Arthur Friedheim, he was a Russian pianist, but Friedheim was a German name, and his career was literally destroyed during the 1910s here.
Do you think the piano was also thought of as a Germanic object?
No,
Oh, all right.
I don't think I don't think it went that far.
All right.
But it certainly did with humans itself. I mean, you
Mhm.
had a lot of people. James Honecker had to put in. Honecker is a Hun name. My goodness, James Honecker, the great critic
Yes,
of the
yes.
Seven Arts, who was really famous throughout. Still, he had to start using Gibbons, James Gibbons Honecker, to make sure no one
Oh.
thought he was German.
I've noted that on the spine of some of those old copies.
Yeah,
James
I don't
Gibbons
like
on
that.
it.
I don't like that.
I see.
And you know that Karl Muck,
Mhm.
the conductor of the Boston Symphony during World War One, you know that he was arrested and put in prison because he was felt to be a spy. The German conductor of the great Boston Symphony. He was put in prison as a spy because he was a ham radio
Oh,
lover, and
Yes.
they said, "Hey, what are you doing with that?" And they thought, "My God, he's communicating with."
With
Remember, there were boats already on the Atlantic coast.
yes, yes.
Granados, the great Spanish composer, was destroyed coming back from America in the English Channel, where he and his wife died with their arms around each other in the icy waters, 1916.
Wow.
He had come here
Mhm.
because of his opera Goyescus. His piano suite was made into by himself an opera, and it had an estimated type of success. But he didn't like any kind of sea travel ever, and he had to get here. There were no Charles Lindbergh yet,
Yes.
and airplanes. I wish they had never been invented, really. We don't need airplanes. We must stop the use of them today. I hope that all airports close down today. You do understand that I'm talking unrealistically, but think about the horror from the air, the terror from the air that has destroyed the world. Forget just the pollution alone, but no, why do we need airplanes? Traveling by sea was an adventure. You had time to think. You had time, if you were a pianist going to Europe to play, you would have a chance to, play poker with Ignaz Friedman or Arthur Rubinstein.
Do you have a chance to book passage in terms of sea travel?
No, I've never had sea travel except the cruises that I have been on where I performed or lectured. Yes.
Okay.
And they were very, very interesting because it was only music. It was a music cruise.
I see.
The music festival at sea. And so, I was with Rostropovich or Stern or Thomas Vachery or English Chamber Orchestra. It was an extraordinary. I was on it 3 times, and I must say that it's a shame that doesn't exist anymore. We would get out at Ephesus. The acoustics there were so perfect, and Sophie Mutter would play the violin concerto of Beethoven, things like that. It was like a 2-week cruise with the most fabulous food and liquids and so forth.
Did you ever have cause to play the piano at sea?
Yes. When one of my lectures had me playing a lot of piano pieces, yes.
So I found the one time that I ever played the piano at sea, I wish I had your, of course I didn't have, nor do I have your exalted qualities to be beckoned to do it. So I was one of the lowly men who consented to play The Girl from Ipanema 1,000 times for a week.
It's a good song, though.
Yes, it is a good song. However, what was fascinating to me was to be at an instrument that is so solid that we think it is, talk about forbidding the idea of flight. The piano seems so much to reinforce our lives on the ground because it doesn't move. I could not account when I first started to play and was put on the ship for the one probationary week that I accepted, and I fled after my week of work. I could not account for why I felt so queasy while I was playing. And only when the windows were opened in this lounge did I realize, well, the ship was moving. Because I never associated the piano with any environment in which the floor is not level.
Isn't that amazing?
It was a fascinating
I've had that
thing.
feeling, yes, I understand it.
Yes.
And the Barge in New York, all you have to do is go, that concert series.
Yes.
And you could feel queasy playing.
Yes. Mm-hmm. You had mentioned Stanley Waldorf, and you had programmed a piece of his for your radio show from the recording that you made, and it'll be played next week. What piece is that?
That will be on?
Yes.
Weber Perpetual Motion and the Czerny Octave Etude.
Oh, wow.
And I'm hoping that he's, because he's in the hospital right now fighting, and I hope that he'll be able to hear it.
I was impressed by his performances that I heard on one of the YouTube interviews you did with him on NCN that one can find on YouTube.
Yes, you could find him with several interviews with me and one with Martin Cannon, the piano teacher at Juilliard. There's so many things that have been saved that I have done that are very easily accessible.
Yes,
I'm so pleased with that, and that's because of a fellow that came to me through tapes of the musical offering that I did at WNCN, and he became he was in the United States Army, and in Korea he started listening to these tapes, and he had been a rock and roller and all of that, but no interest. It totally won him over. The idea of hearing classical music is something so stupendous. He knows so much more than me. He knows everything about the piano literature. His name is Robert Tanucci.
Yes.
And he lives in Brockton, Massachusetts, and he is one of the most interesting fellows I have ever met. And we email each other all the time, and he's always looking for Dubaliana. And he finds new things. I don't know how.
Yes. What I find remarkable is you contend that the recordings that he has uploaded to YouTube are from cassettes recorded from the broadcast off the air. Am I right?
Yes, I think so.
Because they're flawless, and you don't hear
Yes.
one bit of FM crackle or
Yeah.
distortion.
He himself, with his own money,
Mhm.
digitized many.
Mhm.
I can never possibly thank Robert Tanucci, who I call Nooch, or the Noochinator,
Yes.
enough, because thousands have been, my Quentin Crisp interview.
Yes,
and
yeah.
I mean, there's thousands of hits. And
Yes.
Uchida, the pianist, you name the things that I once, I don't know how, he got in a little recording of Joplin's concert waltz. Notice concert waltz. So he meant it on the piano, on the grand piano.
On the grand
you see.
piano. Yes, yes.
1905 piece called Bathina, a waltz with 5 ragtime themes, and I played it, and somehow I recorded it, and I think I rejected it from a musical heritage, and he got hold of it. I don't know how, and one day I said to myself, I wonder how I really played Bathina, but it's a shame that I don't have that anymore, that cassette or whatever it was that I did from the recording. So mysterious that how people find things if they want to.
Yes.
And we must start getting away from the computer and start finding things again. It's such an experience.
Yes.
And so he must have found it, because yes, he told me. And I pushed the thing, and that YouTube, forgetting my hatred literally of the mechanical
Yes.
world. I mean, if you know what you're looking for, I mean, it's always there. It's extraordinary. But in this case, no, there's no Bathina recording by me. I pushed the thing, David Duvall playing stop Joplin's Bathina. Forgive me. I get excited. There it is. He found it somewhere, this one cassette. How did he do that? I don't know. I don't have it.
He's a remarkable man. I had cause to write him a letter, and I got a very, very kind and careful reply from him.
Oh, he's Robert Tanucci is just. I mean, I can't even tell you. He's like an apparition. He came out of nowhere in my life 40 years ago, or 30 or whatever. He's probably only 62 or 4. And there is no one that he's not in contact with. There's no one that he has not helped with something or another. He knew intimately the archives at the University of Maryland. There must be... He's just told me there's new things that he's working on fixing with Istallman, the violinist Eric Friedman. Many. All of a sudden, a new thing of mine will appear.
Wow, that's very impressive.
Oh, I mean, who gets to have a man like Robert Tanucci in their lives? I mean, I'm really blessed by him, and you.
Well, thank you, David. I also have to thank Robert Tanucci. I've listened to your recordings from those years when I heard them come over the air and presumed that they went off into outer space and could never be recovered again. But from his work, I've listened to them countless times.
They were saved by a woman, Tamara Conroy, who lived in Pelham, New York. And I had her as a great fan. And during the period, especially in the early days of the musical offering and those comparative performances and interviews or whatever.
On WNCN?
Yes.
Yes.
She taped everything. And this is a woman, she's passed away. I could also tell you, wow, what a person. She taught mathematics, wrote a book on mathematics even.
What was her name again?
Tamara Conroy.
Okay.
And I think that was her husband's name. I think she came from Czechoslovakia.
Okay.
She wrote me such extraordinary letters and I had lunch with her many times. She would come in, and she took my evening division class for many years at Juilliard, and she would send them these tapes to Robert Tanucci, who she knew because she was an enterprising woman on her own. She had a painting collection. She had very cultivated woman, and her letters were wonderful. I'm sorry I didn't save them. And Robert had been part of her classical something connection, it was called, where if you were a lover of classical music, she would set you up with a date or something like that. She had many marriages. She always had to go to a new marriage because classical music would bring people together.
Oh, you mean she engineered many marriages for others?
Through her classical connection, or, which she had ads all the time in, various journals, and she had many people.
Okay.
I never got much into that part of her life, but Tanucci did.
Yes.
And because anything that's interesting, Robert Tanucci's going to look into for,
Mm-hmm.
So she started a great relationship with him in Korea.
Mm-hmm.
He's married to a very fine Korean woman. He is an American.
Mm-hmm.
And Tam, we called Tam, sent these to him, and he went crazy for great art, music, and the piano particularly, and with me singularly. And I'm so happy to talk about him, because there are people such as him in this downtrodden society, where people have been beaten into a cultural vacuum of such greasy stuff, such bad music, such bad movies, such bad painting, such bad everything.
Agreed.
Sorry, wrong number.
Barbara Stanwyck, I believe, is the principal.
Barbara Stanwyck.
Yes, all right.
And who else? I forget.
I mainly see her in her panic as she's sitting up in bed with the telephone in her hand.
Oh, is she good in that melodrama? Isn't she?
Yes, she is.
Barbara Stanwyck, big career. These people are so good compared to what we have, that I think that, when you listen to Turner Classics, I just saw on Turner Classics, guess what?
What?
Bugs Bunny cartoons.
Yes, aren't they remarkable in terms of what in music scoring is called the hits? Meaning, I don't know how they pulled those off. The orchestral music is so complex, and it lines up with visual moments. How did they do that without the computer?
Oh, hell with that computer.
That's what I mean. But
hell with it.
The
That's
timing is extraordinary.
Ridiculous.
And the colors of the orchestra, as silly as the imagery is, and even violent.
It's nuts. It's incredible,
Yes.
the imagery of this great bunny.
Yes.
I would never eat rabbit because of growing up with the bugs.
Right. And of course that extraordinary cartoon of his playing the Second Hungarian Rhapsody.
Not Bugs, that's the
there's
Tom
a
and
Bugs.
Jerry. Oh, is there a Bugs
There's a
too?
Bugs Bunny version of that. There's a Warner Brothers, and then there's the MGM version with Tom and Jerry.
Yes.
Yes.
What they did was incredible, and the piano playing was by famous pianist, Jacob Gimple. He won the Academy Award for.
Gimple did a lot of Hollywood work.
Yes,
I
he did.
believe he's the one doing the piano work in Gaslight during the party scene. Do you remember when Ingrid Bergman is taken to a party and she's so relieved that she's being taken out by her husband? As we know, he's driving her mad on purpose.
Oh, what
a movie.
Is that where we got the gaslight?
That's where the term gaslighting comes
yeah,
from.
yeah.
And of course, everyone uses it now in their pop psychology references, but they don't know the movie.
No, they don't know. That's terrible.
Isn't that strange?
That's
The gold currency has been lost, and now everyone throws around this inflated paper currency of the word.
Everyone using that gaslighting as
Yes, but what a movie. And I think Jacob Gimple is the pianist playing on the soundtrack during the party sequence.
And I think he won the Academy Award for the Tom and Jerry one, where because he played in that too. But he also played gorgeously the one piece that Louis Jardin played over and over again in with Joan Fontaine. Oh gosh, what's the name of that movie? It is really worthwhile. Louis Jordan is magnificent, and Joan Fontaine is falling in love with this neighbor who's a concert pianist.
Okay.
And he plays the Liszt Etude in D flat, the Un Sospiro, the one sigh. Oh,
Yes.
and that's Jacob Gimple also.
Okay.
Gimple's son has written to me several times to, thank me for playing some of his recordings.
Wonderful. Is he still living, the son?
No, I don't know. I
Okay.
don't know. But Gimple also had a violinist brother that was famous. But Jacob Gimple was an extraordinary pianist, and there's a magnificent recording of a live performance from the Ambassador Theater, which had a great piano series once. Everything is once. Terrible. It's just terrible what is the collapse of
Once
culture
in the sense
America.
that it once was. Is that what you mean?
It once was. It once was.
Now, in terms of the once was, I don't know why he came to my mind, but in terms of the American 19th century and the streams of the use of the piano, David, have you spent time with the music of John Bethune? I think he's also known as Blind Tom.
Yes, I've read the music of, the music, but I've heard some of the music of Blind Tom, who there's a wonderful biography of him, and
Okay.
by a woman, I don't remember the name, and it really goes into a sensational life. I think she was, who wrote My Antonia, a very famous...
Is it Willa Cather?
Willa Cather was a
Mhm.
very musical woman,
Mhm.
and I think she was inspired very much by Blind Tom in her depiction in one of her novels, which I just think is amazing depiction of a pianist like him.
And he was born in slavery, correct?
Yes, I think he was born in
and he
slavery.
was genuinely blind.
Yes, one of Joplin's parents was born in slavery.
Yes, okay.
Oh, he was authentically blind, and he was exploited. He was this, he was that, but he always triumphed. And he was everywhere in
Yes.
America.
It's amazing.
He was everywhere. Blind Tom.
Mm-hmm.
There was another there was Blind Boom too.
I don't
There's
know that
another
name.
one who also composed.
Okay.
And they composed
Mhm.
and they played, not by Braille or anything. I mean,
Mhm.
they were simply stupendous
Yes.
personalities.
Mhm.
And to look at him, the photos in this book, please get the book about Blind Tom. I don't remember the name of it, but you can easily on Google now get anything, right?
I think so. And yeah, am I right? His last name is Bethune. Bethune? Is that how we say his name?
Was that his real name?
I think that's at least the surname, or it may have frankly been the name of the man who held him
I would
before.
have loved to have hugged Blind Tom.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
There's something so wonderful about him and his looks.
The
way
photograph
he-
is very sympathetic,
Yes,
isn't it?
yes. And what about the face of Scott Joplin? Is that fantastic? It's just visionary the way he
Yes.
looked,
Yeah, Blind Tom seems very rich in warmth. I don't know why
Yes,
I
yes.
project that, whereas Joplin has an ambiguity to it, a pathos and a benign quality. I don't know that I would be alienated by him, but I might feel a bit awed by him too. There's something there in the face.
Yes, there's something very beautiful about Joplin's face
Mhm.
that I always think of the piano music of Bethina, where there's a magnificent black woman's face
Yes.
on the cover. She's so lovely.
That's something very much lost to us, isn't it? Is the commercial illustrations that would have been on the front of sheet music.
Well, they were wonderful, and those titles of those ragtimes.
Yes.
Most of them were not his. They were the white publisher that adored ragtime. In fact, his daughter was a good pianist who went to Europe and studied with Mishkovsky.
Joplin's daughter?
Yes,
Okay.
one of the teachers of Joseph Hoffman.
Yes.
In the world of the piano, there are so many ties together
Yes.
that one could never write enough volumes of
Yes.
just like my piano teacher's husband studied with Franz Liszt.
Yes.
Think of it.
I know.
Think of it.
Yes.
This was a god. This was a god, not a man. No.
No, I understand.
And-
David, forgive me. I think I put us down a path away from the moment when you were going to give us a reading.
Oh yeah, I wanted to ask you a question.
Yes.
What do you think about the idea of talent thwarted, Jack?
Okay.
Remember, we're listening to David Duval and Jack Cole talk about many things, and my goodness, I mean, if you're a pianist, how could you not be interested in what we're talking about? And certainly write us about it and tell us that we have made a little impact in the what, hundreds of millions that now listen to us.
Right.
And I don't like that there are not hundreds of millions that, that's where my ego is very weak. I want everyone to hear these shows because I like what we're talking about.
I do too.
Okay. What do you think about talent? Can it be thwarted easily? Or are you of the school that no matter what, nothing would have stopped so-and-so's gift from happening? Of course, it's a generalization, and
it's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think part of the talent is resisting the thwarting, so that those we know who were supremely gifted also had the wherewithal not to let the vicissitudes of life in any way stop them? So that might be a fishy answer, but could the true talent also require the fortitude to refuse to surrender?
I think so.
I think so too.
Remember, I think there's no answer to this.
Right.
And to most questions, and this is where I think we falter as intellectuals or the society. There is nothing black and white or clear cut. There are truths to many things that you don't agree with.
Agreed.
So I want to, because I'm reading this Enemies of Promise by Cyril Connolly. He was, he's long dead, and he was the editor of The Horizon, which was a famous English magazine for the arts. Of course, not anymore, and defunct long ago. But his books are quite amazing to me. I've read them. This is the third time on this one, and it's interesting. You see, if you know a lot, to Logan Pearsall Smith.
Yes. Why do I know that name?
Well, he was a writer who wrote a book that was a sensation called Trivia, and it's a exquisite. I use one in my Art of the Piano as an epigraph.
Okay.
Little sentences that were refined down, little ideas refined down to the most exquisite language. He was the brother-in-law of the great art historian Bernard Berenson. It's amazing how many, as you know more and more, they were all knowledgeable of each other, let alone...
So if he was the brother-in-law of Bernard Berenson, did Bernard Berenson have a sister?
No. He was married to Smith's sister. So
Berenson was married to Smith's sister.
Yes.
Okay.
Does that not make him his brother-in-law?
It does. I just didn't know.
I always get confused with that because it bores me. Who's my niece or who's
of
my...
course. Those are always the worst parts of biographies.
I know.
When they begin that way.
Anyway, he wrote a book called, which I I recommend very much. It's called, of course I can't find, Other books by Cyril Connolly, selected essays, which I have read, which are excellent, but they're before 1940.
Okay.
And the great one, along with Enemies of Promise, is this. It's called The Unquiet Grave. Please look that up, buy it, read it 3 times. So, about that answer of yours, which I understand, look at a great composer like Griffiths, who dies at 35 years old, Charles Griffiths, an American master, dies in 1920. That man had no possibility in his bones of ever promoting anything in his life. So you see,
Yeah.
to be famous or to be well known, you also have to have something of the promotion to thwart the society itself,
Yes.
because that society really did kill him at 35.
Or
Literally
to thwart
starving to death.
or to thwart the affectation of modesty. We're all taught that there's something, and I still think it's creditable as a trait, but it can also deflate intention when one is rather sure of what one is producing,
Yes.
affecting a degree of self-deprecation can be very destructive. So perhaps the ability to surrender the vanity that one could collect by being credited as a modest man is also another sacrifice that certain artists have to make. They may inherently be decent, but have to sacrifice the notion of modesty in order to promote what they know objectively about themselves as a value.
I think Wagner was a great case, who certainly knew himself,
Yes.
but he was not about to not let the world know of his genius. The world owes me what I need.
Yes, absolutely.
I think a lot of artists deeply feel like that, but are much too embarrassed. You know, the artist in America has been just shoved down into the ground.
Hmm.
Anyway, so this is written
Okay.
around 1944 or 5.
And this essay is called.
This is just from his book Enemies of
Okay,
Promise.
all
There's
right.
many things I've underlined. You
All
know.
right.
I could read on and on. But, you know, one of the things about our show is that we would like to promote things that should continue.
Yes.
If one or two wants to read this, we would be successful, right?
I think so.
Now, that's an interesting word, because more artists have been destroyed by success, I think, than even failures.
Yes, because, and what do you think accounts for that? My knee-jerk reaction would be that it removes the energy that one puts in art, because that what we think of as ambition is also merely an energy to make the internal external. And so that once that success comes, perhaps we think we've externalized something, but perhaps it's better to always having to be fighting from obscurity. I remember in an issue of the Juilliard Journal, there was a quote from you that where you had advised all the students to remain hungry like the lone wolf, that to join the pack, even though it would mean that you were secure and that you killed your moose every 3 days, yet the pack can do it. It would be much better to be on the outside.
Yes, I was talking about the Arctic wolf.
The Arctic wolf, yes.
And I remember that well, because it hit this, quite a few students when they read it, because they're in despair, or they don't know what to do. I mean, here they play all of these wonderful pieces and no one wants to hear them.
Yes, yeah.
And so I said, you know, be like the Arctic wolf, you know, just be alert and take what comes your way.
Yes.
But there's a lot of people that can't even do that, because that's not in their temperament. It's hard for them to ask. It's hard for them to, I mean, there are many great pianists who have never been heard. Well,
Do you think there's a nobility in that?
no,
All right.
I don't think there's a nobility. I think what we miss is what we miss. There's no
Yes,
nobility.
okay.
I mean, I would love to, you know, have known that William Masellos, who we were talking about,
Yes.
great pianist, that played the most incredible Ives First Sonata. When I was literally a child, I heard this and I was electrified. I mean, this man should have been the most famous pianist in the world. But I'm sure that, you know, almost nobody in our audience has ever heard of William Masellos.
And would you repeat for our audience what you say you heard from him when you mentioned that life was hard for him?
He had multiple sclerosis, and you know, he taught at Juilliard, and we were in the bathroom one day, and we're washing our hands, and you know, I'm saying, Bill, it's so hard. Life is so hard for you, Bill, because he was, you know, really shaking. Funny that he didn't shake when he played in public. Incredible.
That is incredible. I wonder, do you think the body emits some kind of
I
biochemical?
don't know. Of course, he was a very unusual man.
Okay.
But so he hugged me, turned around, and he said, David, life is hard for everyone. Did I say the exact words to you in the other story? I think so.
I think so. And yes, that his recording of the Ives First Piano Sonata, That is the benchmark.
And I heard it, and it's extremely good, but nothing could compare with that live performance
Oh,
I heard
okay.
at Town Hall.
Okay.
I mean, I didn't know it, I never heard it. I was hardly educated enough to know the piano literature as I now do,
Mm-hmm.
but I still knew, oh my God, this is the big time.
Mm-hmm.
That's the major leagues, Mr.
Mm-hmm.
Masellos.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to the Ives Sonata. Leave the Concord Mass alone if you're interested
Mm-hmm.
in Ives, because this marvelous work is so crazy and it's full of ragtime too.
Yes.
I'm going to read to you his take, Conley's take on from Enemies of Promise. What I think is interesting on can talents be thwarted.
Mm-hmm.
You mind if I do that?
Please.
Okay. Some critics encourage a mystical belief in talent. They hold that in the nature of things, it must come to fruition. That, quote, if it is in you, it's bound to come out, end of quote. That true genius can neither be depressed by illness or poverty, or destroyed by success or failure. They go so far as to claim that people die at the right time, that Keats and Shelley had nothing more to say, that Marlowe or André Chenier met their violent deaths at the appropriate moment. This fatuous romantic fatalism is based on an optimistic nature and a refusal to face facts. But talent is something which grows and which does not ripen except in the right kind of soil and climate.
Mm-hmm.
We surely don't have it after the atomic bomb.
Mm-hmm.
It can be neglected or cultivated and will flower or die down. To suppose that artists will muddle through without encouragement, that's the great emollient encouragement, and without money,
Mm-hmm.
you have no idea how many people that love the arts and our practitioners are penniless.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the past there have been exceptions, is to assume that salmon will find their way to the top of a river to spawn in spite of barrages and pollution. Quote, if it's in you, it's bound to come out, end of quote, is a wish fulfillment. More often it stays in and goes bad.
So, by that reckoning, do you feel, let's imagine if we were in the Elizabethan age, I'm just picking this as a time period that's not that far in the past, and we went to a completely uncontacted part of Alaska where there was an Inuit child who was not exposed to any of the things via the sequence of history or location, that perhaps he lived and died and he may have been as great as a Mozart, but because we don't have the proper stream in that case for him to swim up without the barriers. Now, of course, that's an extreme example, because I've often wondered too, if there's a moment in time, where is it? Somewhere in Africa, we imagine that at some point we become indistinguishable from our modern selves, meaning that an infant from that point, if we could abduct that child and put it in a time machine and plop it into a school, that it would be indistinguishable. Do we think that same thing is the case, meaning that a child from 200,000 years ago, simply without the proper culture, simply may have lived and died and yet been one of the great consciousnesses that we have? So do you feel that? Do you feel
I
that's
definitely
true?
agree with you. Yes, of course.
Okay.
Because I believe that the potential of man is embedded in every human being. It's will it come out?
Right. Well, that's what Mr. Emerson calls the infinitude of the private man.
That's the infinitude of the private man, and
Yeah.
the Inuit Alaskan Eskimo guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he could have had, with the right soil, as he says
Mhm.
it all. It's there too.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't have it, so he never understood the joy of writing out a sonata form or playing something, because that's not his culture, not his, and that is a loss to the human race if that's important to you. Doesn't mean that loving great music or Beethoven is important to you. There's millions that really, obviously, we know that they do not care. However, something was missing in their education, in their parental upbringing. There's no doubt that you would love the Beethoven Seventh, because it's in everyone to love this. It's universal beauty.
But of course, I may also react to this and say that there are, and I have to bow before these examples, there are salmon that get past the barriers, that jump over the dam.
Yes, that's an interesting thought, and I think that he makes it clear that he's writing of a generalization.
Right. Yes.
There will always be people.
Right.
You know, you had a good environment with parents that encouraged you. If you don't have encouragement, I can tell you that half of the pianists that never play again are because teachers didn't encourage them. All they had to do was say, "Oh yes, that has great potential for being a great performance," and you go out of there on a cloud.
Yes, and it causes one to feel really industrious, not to rest on one's laurels. You're right, it only compels harder work. That slight bit of encouragement sometimes is like an explosion of influence.
That exquisite perfume of encouragement.
Yes.
I mean, you could be a mediocre talent, and that encouragement finds things in your body and brain that brings you into greatness even.
Yes. I know exactly what you mean. And you know as well as anyone, one of those phrases that one can have after leaving a lesson can cause weeks of grand practice.
My great friend at Juilliard, Elliot Prescott, oh my goodness, he had to overcome so much in life. Parenting that was miserable, the overprotectiveness of mothers, and on, and my son is better than Arthur Rubinstein, and you name it. And he comes to Juilliard and he sees all of these people, which are talented as well, and he gets a teacher that has a streak of cruelty. Do not underestimate the teachers that have a little cruelty, because they are the ones that can't do it usually.
Right.
So they have an envy or a resentment, and it comes out sometimes without meaning. But I will never forget, he played the F minor Ballade of Chopin, which is one of the great intimate works and heroic narratives of the piano literature, and the teacher may have had a bad breakfast or a fight with the wife, and didn't feel great, and maybe it was 9 a.m, and he said, "Oh, I think that you're not poetic enough in your nature to play this piece." Well, I was his contemporary, so I'm not very old, and I can't believe it, because I had hardly ever heard anyone play Chopin more wonderfully at that age. Here's a teacher that destroyed him. He never played a Chopin piece again. Couldn't do it. I'm not poetic enough. The authority told me I can't do it. No authorities, please. Never have an authority. Never listen to anyone, except unless you're psychotic and you're out of reality. Knowing reality at all times does not mean that you cannot grow, even though you think your talent isn't great enough, because most of the people that are artists are told so many times that their talent is not great enough. So they do have to thwart the society, and they do have to, it's a shame that so many have become alcoholic. Writers, my God. Yeah.
You're right.
You're not going to be a better writer with being drunk, believe me. It's like a piano playing. You're drunk, you can't play a piece even.
I can imagine.
Stay away from liquor. May have one martini every 2 days, and that will be quite enough.
Okay. I'll trust you on that.
Yeah, well, you please don't you ever drink. I mean, there are wonderful, wonderful, wonderful examples of, one of Liszt's. I think Liszt would have lived another 10 years. Really, he had such a
Yes.
constitution. His drinking hurt him, and he had a certain machoism about the male who should smoke.
Right. We never learn from the literature, however, that he ever seemed inebriated. He just seemed to take in everything.
Well, it's very good that he wasn't inebriated, because I don't think he would permit himself that. Remember,
Right, yeah.
this is not the average human being.
No.
So he tells his unwearing students, who are hardly Franz Liszt's, even though there may be Moritz Rosenthal's or Eugene D'Albert's or von Bülow's and Tausig's. These people are still not Liszt, no matter if they live 10 lifetimes. And he says, "Oh, drink and smoke," and they do that, and they end up with being alcoholics.
Right. Yes.
All of Liszt, Riesenauer, they were all alcoholics because the master said you can do that. All influences are immoral, the great statement of Oscar Wilde. All influences are immoral.
Or Mr. Emerson's phrase, imitation is suicide.
Oh, it's suicide artistically.
Yes.
What's the point of doing it?
Yes.
Why would you want to do it if you imitate anyone? Yes, we can forgive the young artist who's influenced by so-and-so, to paint like Renoir or something. But no, you have to stop. And you will never be a great artist if you ever imitate anyone. Impossible. I don't mean that there cannot be a strain of something here and there, but it's, and Picasso says this is the variation on a theme of Delacroix. He's making sure, don't think I'm imitating him or influenced by him. Well, as usual, I think that we have talked a great deal. I do want to ask you if you're practicing hard on the toccata. I want all the pianists that are listening.
Yes.
Oh, please, please.
Very hard. Such that I feel brave enough to have importuned upon your generosity to ask if in about 14 days I can try it in front of you.
Yes, you can try it. I will have nothing much to say because you are a wonderful musician. Please understand that it's the playing itself that, teachers have too much input on people.
Oh, I understand that. I think what you know that I'm asking for is that shared awareness that we need to conquer when we move from the practice room to playing even in front of one very knowing person.
As long as that person is harmless.
Yes.
That person must be harmless, or you can all of a sudden, worst of all, feel terrible. And artistic feeling that is terrible within the person, within the soul and heart, is a very, very distinct despair.
Yes, it is.
Well, what have I said today of importance? Well, everything except naturally, they're not going to close the airports all down, and we are going to continue with air travel, and we're going to still attempt to go to Mars and other places in the solar system, but we will never get too far. Have I ever been wrong? Never.
Agreed. I think there are some certainties, and Duvalian certainties are certainties.
And I want to say that in this case, you go too far.
Ah, okay.
Please visit us next week, please. I love doing it, and I really do want everyone to hear that has any, when I talk, sometimes I slur, I go from one. Please forgive me, and certainly you are a true orator, because you have to understand almost every word you say, because it's complex answers, far more than mine.
Well, David, now you are in error. I have a chance to review what I say, so I too feel many times self-conscious to find my own errors.
Oh, never.
Well, you're too kind.
So, could you get the six little things?
I can.
I want to show them before we leave.
Me?
What I have been doing lately. I've been into a little series of with black marker.
Here we are, sir.
So I've done these almost every day of the week. Here, I'll give one to you, each one,
Yes.
and you hold it up.
Okay.
That's called Ragtime.
Yes, I noticed that recently.
This one, I don't know if it's a man or a woman, but you think that the neck is a woman.
I did. I suspected that leaned one toward the
I like this so much.
feminine side.
This was done yesterday. Oh my goodness. I have no idea how I did them. They came from looking at this, which I hadn't seen since 2002. If you notice, the name Duval is written within the composition. And this is your favorite.
Mine, I found that very, and when I use the word disturbing, I don't mean disturbing in the sense that it makes me feel uneasy, but that it constantly caused me to reconsider the image to a degree that it's not static, actually. It causes, whether or not the fluidity is in my mind or at the same time starts to seem to be within the object, I find fascinating. Because it's both so abstract but then oscillates into the personified.
How could anyone talk like you? Oscillate into the personified.
I don't know. Maybe that's not a good thing.
It is a good thing.
Okay, all right.
As long as our audience understands everything.
Okay.
You know what I mean.
Mm.
Good to see you all. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, David Duval.
Thank you, Jack Cole.
All right. So until next time, and we hope that everyone will share and subscribe to our channel.
I would love everyone to watch.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to like it. Tell us that too. Tell us that you have found the two most egocentric maniacs in the history of the media.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't
Okay.
matter.
Mm-hmm.
It's fun.
It is.
It's fun.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, Jack.
Okay, till next time.